Hey everybody, thank you for joining us for today's episode of Real Estate Disruptors. Today we have Javier Hinojo with $1 billion boardroom mastermind. He flew in from Raleigh, North Carolina to talk about how he went from 32 cents in his bank account to over 690 doors. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm Steve Trang, sales trainer for some of the top wholesalers in the country, and I'm on a mission to create 100 millionaires. One question I do get all the time is, how do I become one of the 100 millionaires? The information on this podcast alone is enough for you to become a millionaire in the next 5 to 7 years. All you need to do is just take consistent action and you will become one. When you hear a nugget, please type it into the comment section, and after the show, identify your single biggest takeaway. And if you can just focus on that for the next 7 days, I promise you, you will become a millionaire. If you get value out of the show, please tag a friend below or share this episode right now. That way we can all grow together. And this is a live show, so please ask your questions for Javier to answer. You ready?
I am ready.
All right, awesome. So first question is, what got you into real estate?
All right, what got me into real estate? I have a really good friend of mine. He's a chiropractor. And he called me up one time and said, hey, I have this event I want to take you to. And I said, sure. And it was one of those 3-day kind of seminars. You come in for free and then you pay for the upsell. And I think we ended up paying like $35K, like super hard sell. And we split it, and that's how we started.
Back to the room?
Yeah, like, come on, everybody get up, go sign, sign the back. And like for me, I don't really need all that motivation, right? I'm like, I didn't want to do it, to be honest with you. But he's like, hey, I'm going to do it without you. And I said, well, if you're going to get ripped off, I'll just get ripped off with you. That was my thought process. We'll split it 50-50.
Good friend.
Yeah. And that's pretty much it. That's how I got started. But I knew that at some point I wanted to do real estate, right? And I'm just glad that he was able to, he dragged me out there.
All right. So this is a good friend of yours?
Yes.
Is he still in real estate, or is he a chiropractor?
Yeah, he's so he actually has stage 4 cancer. Right before we did this, and the doctor told him, "Hey, you got 2 weeks to live. Get your stuff in order." And I don't know. It's been like 8 years later. He's been cancer free, but him and I started out together, and now he's doing his chiropractic, and he's writing books, and he's doing. Okay. But we started together in real estate, and he's doing a little bit, but he's focusing on his practice.
So 8 years ago. So this is back in 2013.
2014.
2014.
Yeah, about 7 years ago.
So you get dragged. So you didn't pay anything to go to the seminar.
No, he actually paid the $300, whatever it was, to go.
And then you get he got upsold. You joined him.
Yep.
Split it. It was $35K.
Yep.
And then you're immediately doing deals.
Yeah. So you had like a online course. You can do it live or online. And like, I just want to do it online. I want to do it quickly. So halfway through like our beginner's course, we found a property on the MLS that the lady dropped it like a good amount. Then we came even lower, and we got our first property under contract even before we were done with our first module, right? So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
How did you find that deal?
On the MLS.
Okay. So you're just combing the MLS.
Yep. It was 2014. So
you're combing the MLS. You guys call the agent directly. You have an agent helping you?
Yeah, we had an agent. So we saw the price drop, and then we called the agent. We told the agent, hey, call the agent, let him know what's going on, ask some questions. And we came in like 20 grand less than whatever she dropped the price.
Closed on it.
Yep.
Regular financing, cash. How did you close on it?
Yeah. So for me, it's been 6-7 years. So it's still fresh in my mind. I didn't know anything. Like, where do I get insurance? What's a HUD? What's inspection? Like, I didn't know anything. Like, attorney, I didn't know anything. Where do I find money, right? So first thing I do, I Google money for real estate. Man, I got all these scammers. Like, oh my gosh, like send me $1,000 and we'll give you a term sheet. And like, we spend so much money just like trying to figure out.
You were buying term sheets.
Well, yeah, I mean, or they wanted money up front, right? We didn't know any better.
Right.
And long story short, we ended up getting a hard money loan. And then we didn't have enough money. So he'd swipe his credit card on my machine and I swipe mine on his at the same location, at the same time, the same amount. Don't do that. With the same processor. Don't do that, because that'll put a red flag. So long story short, those accounts got closed. But we got enough money for the down payment for the hard money loan. So
you got your business, he's got his business.
Yeah.
And then you guys are buying from each other.
Yeah.
What was your business?
I have a service company. It's a locksmith company. That's what I've done since I was a kid.
So he bought some amount. How much?
We had to come up with like $35,000.
Okay, so you guys swiped.
40,000, yeah.
35,000. So 17,000 worth of locksmith services. Yeah. And you swiped 17,000 of chiropractic services.
That's right.
I love it.
It was legit. Like, we just gonna be paid, at some point. Right. I pay it, and he paid at some point. It was legit, but don't do that.
All right. So you guys do that. So you close on that deal. Yep. And then it was a flip, wholesale. What did you do?
Yeah, it was a flip. And, just brand new flip. Like, hey, 20 grand rehab turned to like, 40, right? Doubled. Hey, 8-week rehab turned to like 3 months, 4 months. But, we made money, right? We didn't make a lot, but it was good. We went in there, we rehabbed it, over rehabbed, right? We didn't need to, we could have just probably done paint, carpet, and maybe some new countertops, something super simple. But we pretty much spent 40 grand in a pretty nice house, actually, already.
Okay, so you made like 20?
Yeah, a little bit under 20, yeah.
All right, and then you sold it to someone?
Yeah, so when I went to the closing table, there was this really pretty girl there.
Yeah.
And then her husband was not very good looking, like twice her age, just not very good looking. I'm like, wow, he must be a really nice guy because this is not an expensive house.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have money. Anyway, so kind of find out later on, she was an adult film actress. So I can tell you the story if you like.
I mean, I think that will keep the people paying attention.
All right, cool. All right, so we sold the house, and when I was reading the contract, it said refrigerator conveys. I'm like, what the hell does convey mean? I was in the Army, so convoy, it means like get the hell out, like move, let's go. So I thought it meant take it with me, right? So I took the fridge with me. And then when they close, of course, the agent's like, hey, where's my fridge? It conveys. Conveys, by the way, for you guys out there, it means stays, like it stays with the property. So we had to take the fridge back. So I was taking my boy with me. He was like 19 at the time. He's adopted. He's from Belarus. He's Russian. His English is not, it's pretty good now. So we take the fridge back, we put it in. She's talking to a carpet person because she didn't like the carpet. And the guy
that
leaves.
you rehabbed with.
Yeah, she didn't like that carpet. She was just a plain, tan color. She wanted a different color.
Okay.
So when the guy leaves, she gets a cigarette, starts smoking, and
in the house.
Yeah, in the house. I'm like, that's weird. But anyways,
yeah,
super pretty. She's wearing a sundress. Don't tell me what color it was. Flowers and yellow. And if my wife's watching this, I'm in trouble. All right. Anyways, so she smoking a cigarette, and she looks at me. She says, "He wants to charge me $5,000 to replace the carpet downstairs. You think that's a lot?" I said, yeah, that's a lot. And then she smokes a cigarette, and she goes, "That's a lot of dick I have to suck." That's what she said. Like literally, I was like, did she just say that to me? And then my boy was behind her, and his English is not the best, so he does like a double take. Like, did he just hear that right? And I'm sitting there, and I didn't know any better. Like, I didn't know what to say. I always have this thing I always say, like, doesn't matter what you tell me. I always say, oh, I'm so happy. We deal with that situation quite often, right? Build rapport, right? Or I'm sorry to hear that we deal with that situation so often. That's like the only time I've never been able to use that line, right? And I said, what do you guys do for your retirement? I was trying to raise money. I didn't know what to say. Anyway, so she kind of went into the details of what she did. Yeah. And so that's how I find out she was a porn star.
Got it. All right. So you close that deal. Yep. You make a good amount of money. What was your next deal like? All
right. The next deal, so we started doing the MLS. At the same time, we started going to the auction. 2014, so there's still a lot of good, there's some deals now, but there was a lot of good deals in the auction. So we started going to auction, and we started going to MLS. Like, I really never started any kind of marketing until maybe like 2 years into it, into real estate, give or take. But it was just auction or MLS. So we set up like a radius search, and every time a property would drop at a certain point, like a big price drop, we go ahead and make an offer. Or if we knew that area sold for $200,000 was the selling price, and if we saw anything that was like under like 140 listed in that little circle, we get an alert. We basically knowing like, hey, that might be a deal. Like, it's so antiquated, but it worked very well. I mean,
right.
That's how we did it.
It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you're doing these deals. Your partner still with your friend?
Yep. We did a few deals together. Yep.
So you guys doing everything 50-50. Did you guys shut down your businesses?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Like after like my first flip, I'm going full time.
So, I mean, burn the ships.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm all in.
Yeah.
All right. So you're doing this full time.
Yeah.
So then, what was it like the next 12 months then?
Yeah. So it was great. I mean, I really enjoyed it, finding all these properties, and it gave me more freedom to go, and I had to raise money from people, right? Telling everybody, hey, I'm buying real estate. I'm buying real estate, and be able to raise some money. So after my first year, I was like, man, if I want to make a lot of money, I got to do a lot. Like, I really need to do a lot of flips, because just transactional, right? So after the first year, I say, hey, look, I told my partner, hey, I want to do like a whole bunch. And he just survived stage 4 cancer. Like, nah, like, it's it's not like what I want to do.
Right. That's not his thing.
Yeah, and which is fine. It was not. We went our separate routes just fine.
So you guys parted ways. You continue doing it.
Yep.
At this point, because you had signed up for some expensive education.
Yeah.
How much did that education help?
You know, I want to say that, you know, some education is better than others, right? Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, the foundation is usually the same, right? You know, like you got to take some action, right? Somebody can tell you exactly what to do, but if you never do it, even if half of it is correct, right? You're never going to get there. Right. So it's crazy how people pay for something and then never actually take action, right? Mm-hmm. And then they blame whoever that teacher was or that company was for their lack of success, right? Mm-hmm. So in my opinion, it was decent, right? It wasn't like, I wouldn't say, man, it was amazing, but it was enough for me to be dangerous and go out there and learn on my own and be able to get some deals.
Got it. All right. So what was then, like you shut down your business, you're doing this, it sounds like you were having success.
Yeah.
Your business was good at this point.
Yeah.
But then something changed.
Yeah. So, you know, cash is king, right? Cash flow. It was all about cash flow. Getting a lot of properties under contract, going longer on rehabs. Some properties even closed or fell out of contract, right? So everything started, you know, shrinking down, like, you know, over leverage, put it that way, right? I started getting over leverage, started getting cash poor around year two and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of one of the scary things that, you know, flipping versus wholesale, right? Flipping, there's definitely more money in flipping.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more cash intensive as well.
Yeah.
And if you're not managing it, it wouldn't be hard to overextend.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think Chris actually was on the show last week, and he ran into that. He had 10 properties. I think he was saying something like $6 million, you know, outstanding or something along those lines. And now he's stuck. That's the situation you were in?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about how you got into that situation, and then we'll talk about how you got out of that situation. Yeah.
So just not really managing my cash flow. That's what it came down to, right? Mm-hmm. And saying, hey, not really adding enough of a contingency on my rehabs, or even a contingency not just on money, but on time, right? Because I just had a couple that contractors didn't come back on time or something happened, and they started pushing all of them back, right? Especially since I was using kind of the same ones. One guy disappeared, and it holds everybody else back. Yeah. Right? The electrician can't come to fix whatever, and you know, the sheetrock guy can't do anything. Yeah. So we had that situation. So he just got, you know, I was still buying properties, and then I was like running out of money to rehab them, right? Because I was doing so many, and none of them were getting finished. I was just putting money in 5-6 different slots, but nothing was giving me any money back. So,
how many properties were you working on at that time?
I would say I was probably working on 4 or 5 at a time.
Okay. And so at that time you had 5 properties that you were working on, that you had owned, and they're not under contract. They weren't like listed on MLS. You were actively working on them.
Yeah, I actually had bought them and rehabbing. Yeah.
So you got the down payment, earnest money, utilities,
everything,
labor, materials.
Yeah.
Money's going out.
And paying that monthly mortgage at
the hard money,
12% interest. You know, stuff like that. Yeah.
All right. So, what was the bottom of that?
Yeah. So it was around 2016, around the Christmas time, and you know, one property didn't close. One went out of contract, and I'm like, you know, like, holy crap, like I got bills to pay. And we're coming back from Texas. It was New Year's 2017, and I look at my account. I had 32 cents in there. I'm looking at like, I got to pay my rent, you know. So I looked at my kids to where we're driving home, and I said, hey, I need your Christmas money. I took their Christmas money and I put it in the ATM so I could pay my rent. And that I've never cried in real estate. I almost cried that night.
You didn't cry that night?
No, I wanted to cry. Like I want to cry. It's just nothing would come out. And it was a sleepless night. I beat myself up. I kept thinking to myself, did I fail? I let people down. You know, I'm gonna owe a lot of people money. You know, it was like, you know, I felt like, you know, just felt like I was falling apart. And that lasted for a couple hours, and I'm like, okay, man, like I'm not the kind of person. I said, come on, you know, get yourself up, stop feeling sorry for yourself. Let's go, right?
Yeah. But I think it's also good, kind of a tale of caution, right? Like how important it is to manage your finances. Yeah. So how many properties? You said 5 properties. Like how much were you out? How much did you owe? Not hard money, but did you owe private money too?
Yeah, private money. Yeah, pretty much all of it.
So
yeah,
how much did you owe on all
So
that?
Usually it was like 20% down, right? So it was like 250K give or take, right? If each house was around $200,000, had 4 or 5, yeah, I had about 200K out, like 200K out.
200K out, outstanding. And you got monthly expenses as well.
Yeah, I still had monthly expenses, yeah.
And then you had 2 kids?
Yeah, at home I had 3 kids, yeah.
3 kids. How many kids do you have to ask for Christmas money?
All 3 of them.
All 3 of them?
Yeah.
And then what was your wife saying?
She was sitting on the side. She was just quiet. She was pretty supportive all the time. I mean, she didn't say anything,
It tested her resolve, though.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, she's put up with me for a lot of things. 23 years, Steve. 23 years. So she was quiet. She was like, she knew that, like, she wasn't gonna punch me below the belt, right? I was already down, and she was such a good, support at that time.
That's awesome.
She didn't mention nothing. She just business as usual.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what were the lessons you learned from that?
Oh, manage the cash, right? Partner, right? Maybe don't try to do everything on your own. Because I could have partnered with somebody else, like, hey guys, let's. I don't have enough cash, like, or I don't want to be strapped. How about we do this deal together, right? Maybe somebody else does it, and I get a small piece. Or that's when I actually started to wholesale to make some quick money. Like I don't know if I started backwards, but I started flipping, and then I started wholesaling. Right.
Yeah. And
then I was buying off the MLS and at auction, so maybe I was paying a little bit more as well. So I hadn't started doing anything off market yet.
Right. And then how did you get yourself out of it?
So like 2 days later, right? Somebody calls one of the properties. Hey, we got an offer. We're gonna close it. We can close in 2 weeks. Like somebody else is buying another property, like a buyer, and something happened. They didn't close on it, and they were moving, and they had to buy something quick, and they had cash. And they closed on a property like in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. One of the properties that I had for sale. So I was like, oh my gosh, that was like I can still feel it right now. Like it was just like all this pressure lifted off my shoulders.
Clouds parting.
Yeah, it was just like,
sun's coming
that
through.
Just gave me enough breathing room to kind of just continue the rest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you change anything after that?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm not buying nothing. I'm fixing one. I said, I'm taking this money and I'm fixing the easiest one that I can sell. Like that was it. And I got the money. I fixed that one. I didn't care about the other ones. I'm still paying money out. It's okay. But I just finished this one, put it for sale, continue with the other one, and got some money. That's the way I got myself out of it that way.
Okay, so you didn't buy any more to flip.
Well, I didn't say I didn't buy any more, but yeah, I put some under contract for sure. I just gave myself a little bit more time.
Got it.
Like, hey, I'm going to buy these, and I made sure that I had enough time to where I wouldn't close on them until I knew these few were closed, right? You still have to have that pipeline. Mm-hmm. I still had that pipeline, but I didn't actually buy anymore, but I put some under contract for sure.
Got it. All right. So then at some point, you were talking about scaling your business even further. So this wasn't enough trauma.
Yeah, enough trauma, enough brain damage.
That was not enough brain damage. You decided to go even bigger.
Yeah.
How big did you get?
So I tell people that I'm 24 years old, but I look like I'm 42 because I used to flip houses. No, the wrong way. I did it the wrong way. So let me add that, right? Mm-hmm. I just grinded it out. Didn't really have any process or system, right? I just did it by myself. I was a solopreneur, right? So I just said I want to scale, so I need to bring some help. Be like a project manager, and I wanted to get better deals. So I started doing some marketing, just direct mail, right? Doing direct mail. Leads would come in, and I call and close them, and then we get a lot of. Then I would start picking and choosing the ones that I wanted. Like, oh, this is a nice deal. Mm-hmm. This is a nice deal. And I started wholesaling the rest. Yeah. So that's how I kind of scaled my business. Okay. It was a lot safer and a lot smoother.
All right. And then you did that until at some point, though, you made the decision to pivot. Yeah. Yeah. What was your business like when you decided to pivot, and what caused you to pivot?
Yeah. So it was 2019, September. And I was flipping about 50 properties a year. I was wholesaling a whole bunch. And I really wanted to scale. I mean, I was flipping in Dallas, wholesaling in Dallas, Austin, Tampa, and Raleigh, where I'm from, right?
National flipper.
Yeah, so, and I'm like, man, I want to really like take it. I want to really, and I'm sitting there at his mastermind. That's actually when I met you. Mm-hmm. And I had some guys from Charlotte flipping 200 properties a year. And I'm seeing everybody talking about their business. And I'm sitting there and I felt like I was going to scale to unhappiness. I don't know if that, maybe I just didn't enjoy flipping that much, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe I didn't have the right systems. I was doing well back that time, but I said, okay, you know what? I don't think I'm going to enjoy this, number one. And number two, they were talking about their teams. And I said, everybody in my team is a nice person. They've helped me to do a lot, but I have to even upgrade my team. Mm-hmm. So I'm probably going to start all over again. And I said, that's the night that I read my first book ever, that night. Yeah, that night I read my first book. And that book that I read changed the way I thought. I said, you know what? Screw this. I'm not going to do single family. I'm going to just sell all my properties. I'm gonna let my staff go. I'm gonna bring in new staff, and I'm gonna buy apartments.
What was that book?
It was Mikey and the Dragons by Joko Willix. I forget the guy's name. The Navy SEAL
Jocko
guy.
Willink?
Yeah, that guy.
Mm-hmm. Mikey and the Dragons.
Yeah, it's my kind of book. It's about 20-minute read.
Mm-hmm.
It has a lot of pictures and big thick letters, right? It takes about 20 minutes. Now, it's on YouTube. If I would have known it would have been on YouTube, I would have listened to it. I would have never read it. But I read that book, and it was just big story. I mean, just big pictures. Just the king dies, and the son, 10 years old, needs to fight the dragons. And the king tells the little kid is scared because he thinks the dragons are big. And he finds a letter from his dad saying, hey, the dragons aren't as big as you think they are. But he's still scared. He still goes fights them, right? And when he actually goes to fight the dragons, he's really scared. The dragons were this big. They weren't really that big. They were just big in your mind. So that, for me, that was like pivoting, right? Like to buying mobile home park or buying an apartment building. That was the dragon to me, right? Like it is to a lot of single family guys. They see like a dragon. Like I talked to a whole bunch of them. They're like, I want to do it at some point, but they don't know they see it as a dragon, and they're not as big as you think they are. But what really got me from that book is on the way back, everybody from the town was cheering him on because he defeated the dragons. And he's telling everybody, hey, from the mountaintop, right? The dragons are this small. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Nobody paid attention, right? Like you're sitting here right now, you can tell 1,000 people, hey, you can do this. You can do it. And I just heard you on your intro, consistency, like super simple steps.
Yeah.
It just, most people are just it's gonna blow their mind. Like, right? You have the really small few, right? A really small few that are actually gonna feel that and actually fulfill it, right? And do those actual steps. Anyway, so that's the story of me pivoting from single family to multifamily.
So the inspiration or the lesson from there was the apartments is not going to be as difficult.
Correct.
Just go for it.
Yep.
So, and I'm asking this question because when you first mentioned that, I was thinking maybe upgrading the team won't be as challenging as you think it might be.
You know what? I thought about that, but I said, one thing that I changed a lot in here the last couple of years is I'm not afraid to hire anybody who's smarter than me, who has better education, who speaks better than me, who looks better than me. It's not very hard to do that, Steve. It's not very hard, right? So I say, I said, I'm okay with that, right? My ego, I don't, we all have an ego, but I said, I'm okay with that. I'd rather have somebody a lot better than me to help me. If I'm the best guy in my company, I know how to do everything. I don't want that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I get that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it wasn't that much of my staff. It was more, conquering the next real estate goals that I had.
Okay. So when was this exactly?
That was September of 2019.
Okay. So end of 19, towards the end of 19, you went back and told everyone,
yep,
we're shifting, you've got to go. Like, did you retain anybody?
Not really. We just kind of started letting go slowly, right? And getting rid of our properties.
Okay. And then you made a conscious decision to start acquiring apartments.
Yep.
When did you acquire your first apartment?
So I didn't know how I was going to do it. I had no idea, but I said, I'm going to buy the first one by the end of the year. Right. And my wife asked me when I told her, like, honey, I'm quitting. She looked at me. She's like, it didn't surprise her, which is kind of strange, right? I didn't see a surprise in her face. Nothing surprised her. She's just used to it. And all she said was, honey, how much time do you need? That's what she told me. I don't know any better. I said 2 years. I should say like 5, but I said 2. And she's like, okay. And that was it. That was like the whole conversation. But I said, I'm going to buy an apartment building by the end of the year. It's super easy, Steve. Step number 1 is you got to believe you can do it, right? Step number 2 is you got to network with people that are doing that, right? And step number 3 is take some action. Super easy. So that's exactly what I did, right? I believed that I can do it. I started networking with people that are buying apartment buildings, and I started taking action. And sure enough, by December 3rd, I bought my first apartment building.
That's amazing. Yeah. So tell us about it.
Yeah. It's a 63 unit in Charleston, South Carolina. Good friends of mine had it under contract, and I said, hey, what can I do to be part of this deal? Like, I'll shovel shit if I have to, right? I mean, I'll do whatever it takes. I was flipping 50 properties a year, right? So I was making decent change, right? But I didn't care what I had to do to be part of this deal. And they're like, hey, that was the first big purchase. Hey, how about you help us raise some money, do some due diligence, maybe a little bit of the construction. I said, I'll do it. You had to raise $1.2 million. So I said, I can do that. Like, I used to have 3 to 5 from private investors when I was flipping 50 properties. And I overpromised and underdelivered. I got punched in the face. Bam. Right? I raised $200K out of the 1.2 or 1.3. And from people that had never even gave me money in the past. It was 2 brand new investors. Because I realized right away I had the wrong avatar as my investor. Yeah. I had flippers, like guys who wanted to fund flippers. not fund for 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
They leave their money in. So that's another pivot I had to make pretty quickly.
Right. Okay. So partnered up and closing your first one.
Yep.
And then what was it like after that?
Yeah. So after I did that, I said, you know what? This is not that hard, right? Like I'm not a super detailed kind of guy. I said, okay, great. Let me bring somebody in who's really detailed. I can handle all the diligence and all this paperwork to get an apartment building closed. There's like 100, 200 items that we got to go through, which that's definitely not me. I'll be very unhappy if I have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I went ahead and brought in somebody to help me do the asset management. I brought in my staff. And I started telling everybody from the top of the mountains, hey, I'm buying apartment buildings. I'm buying apartment buildings. Actually, even before I bought my first one, I tell everybody all the time, if I was sit here and if I come on your show once a month and I say I have a third nipple, right? I'll be Javier with a third nipple. Like, yeah, Javier. Yeah, the guy with the third nipple, right? So you tell people what you're doing. Hey, I'm flipping houses. I'm buying apartments. I'm buying, I'm doing real estate. Whatever it is you're doing, you tell everybody and their mother that you're doing that, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, so after December, I started doing that, right? I started telling everybody I'm buying apartment buildings. I was already acquiring off-market properties before, single family. So I kind of tweaked it a little bit to start, acquiring some apartments. And that was it. We started getting some really good deal flow.
So just preaching from the or screaming from the mountaintops.
Yep.
And you have one person you hired
yep.
to do asset management. And that's how you went from basically shuttering one business
to
getting the 690 doors.
Yeah. So brought in the COO, asset manager, and I probably did, I don't know, I might have done like a week of actual calls and sales calls, like a week. I brought him in. I said, here you go. You're going to do everything for me right now. And then after we got our first property on close, and he got found a really good deal in North Carolina, a really good deal. And then I went ahead and hired an acquisitions person. So I had like 2 really good, important people in my staff because I don't like to I'm super lazy. That's why I work so hard. And I don't want to do any detail and I don't want to do sales.
Yeah.
So I outsourced that right away. Somebody asked me, can you help me underwrite an apartment building? I can just give me like half an hour so I can refresh my memory because I haven't done it in a year and a half. But I have my staff that are really good at it. So I just made sure I brought in the key people and A players, right? Had to be A players right off the bat, and that knew a lot more than I did. So I can go ahead and go find a deal flow and go raise money, right? That was pretty much my steps.
All right. So what does your business look like today? What's Javier responsible for? What does your team look like today?
Well, I feel like we're doing fairly well, right? We got 690 units, valuation about $50 million, right? But I'm still involved in a lot of parts of my business because my COO is doing my asset management. As soon as he moves over, hopefully in the next 60 days, and he jumps over to COO, and that'll be awesome. But I have cold callers. I have 6 or 7 cold callers. I have my director of acquisition. He does all the underwriting, and he helps close the deals. I have 2 closers. All they do is close. And I have 2 follow-up people that all they do is follow up on the closers' leads. I just hired a junior acquisition. He does disposition, and he helps my director of acquisition. And then I have a marketing team, right? I have my executive assistant and like 5 people on the marketing team that like for social media, IT, things like that. So it's about 22 of us right now.
Got it.
Yeah.
And one thing I always wonder, right? Because I see this, you got Tim Bratz, right?
Yep.
Someone well known in the multifamily space. And we were talking about Ryan Pineda earlier.
Yep.
He's getting into that space. So what I always wonder is how is it possible that someone that's not doing apartments can cold call apartment owners and buy them? And I ask this question because I'm in the traditional real estate residential side, and I didn't test the waters, but I know people on the commercial real estate side. You got the Marcus and Millichap, you got the Colliers International, these other like major commercial, they're not brokerages, but they're commercial real estate
firms.
entities. Firms, there you go. And their job is to cold call and harass apartment owners to get listings.
For 20, 30, 40 years. They pass it generations sometimes. A dad passes it to their son, yes.
So how are you getting a deal when is these other guys, their responsibility, like that is their only job, is to call owners?
So think about this, right? How many times have you guys called a single family house and that owner says, I get this call all the time, like all the time, but you know what? You close it. You happen to close it. Exact same thing. We call these people and they're like, I get calls all the time from, are you a broker? What firm are you from? Right? Because they get that phone call all the time. You just got to be consistent. At some point, they'll be like, you know what? Yes, let's have a conversation. I like you. Let's have a conversation. And that's basically really it. It's just being consistent, Steve. Yeah. It's just being consistent because somebody's going to call them, somebody's going to get that listing, or somebody's going to buy them. So why not you? Why not me? Yeah. Right? So that's what we did. Like we have one in North Carolina. George, my CEO, he called her and she's like, I get this call all the time, but you know what? You sound like a nice young man. Let's have a conversation. Long story short, 72 units. We bought it for 1.3 million. We've had it for a year. We're in it for about 2.1, and it's worth like 4.8. Yeah. Right? That's 1 year, right? And we probably haven't spent, of my time, maybe 40 or 80 hours of a year trying to stabilize that apartment building. And it was just from a phone call, and she's got a lot of phone calls in the past. So yeah just got to be consistent.
So you mentioned stabilizing. So let's talk a little bit about that. What does it look like? You buy this property, got to be a little bit of distress.
It could be. It depends what your strategy is, right? Okay. So you got people that buy the big funds that buy like A-class, beautiful, luxury, because they have billions. So if they make 3% on $1 billion, that's pretty good. Yeah. If you got $1 million and making 3%, it's not a lot of money. Okay. So what are you going to go? What are you going to go after? The A-class or B-class, which kind of like nice as well. Or you're going to go C-class, which those are a little more distressed, right? Need a little more rehab. It depends what your strategy is. So what I do is I go over the distressed, right? I want to be all in for like 60, 65 cents on a dollar. If it's worth 10 million, I want to be all in for $70 million, right? That's the goal. And for it to take me less than 2 years to get it all stabilized, like, bought it, rehabbed, leased out, and turned like in 2 years, right? That's the goal. But at the same time, I'll buy some prettier properties, like a B property, maybe not as a big discount, making a little bit of money, like some cash flow, because I have cash flow now. On these C properties, you might not have cash flow for a year, 6 months, or 18 months, because they're in the negative because you're trying to flip them. Right. Even if it's making money, you still grab your money, put it back in it, because you want to turn it quick. So you can do a little bit of both. You can have like a certain portfolio that brings you a lot of cash, like the C properties, and you can buy some B properties, or even nicer, at a really high cap rate, like in Phoenix, right? In case the market changes, you don't lose your shirt if the market changes, because you still have these other properties that made you a lot of money. Yeah. So that's kind of my strategy, but everybody has an investor personality, right? What is your personality? Yeah.
So this one that you're stabilizing, is your intent to keep it or eventually flip it?
Yeah, so we'll probably end up keeping it. It's in a small town, but if say it's worth $5 million, the bank will give us back 70% of that. So they'll give us back 3.5. We're going to be in it for 2.1, say 2.2. There's like over $1 million in cash out proceeds. The problem we're going to have is the bank's going to be like, man, I don't want to give you $1 million proceeds on this small property, right? They might say no. They might say, hey, we'll only give you $500,000. That's okay. But then we're all in like at 65 or 60% LTV. I mean, that's a really nice cash flow. Right. So ideally, I don't want to be an apartment flipper, right? Because a lot of people buy an apartment for 3 years and they have to sell it to make the returns. You're flipping an apartment building. That's what it is. If you can buy it and then refinance out and keep it for the rest of your life, because basically like a BRRRR method, right? The BRRRR method. Right, exactly. I think those are the best ones.
Gotcha. All right. And then last question I have is, you're in a Hall of Fame?
Yeah, the Rich Dad Poor Dad Hall of Fame. That's where I got my training. And
what is that?
So in 2018, I got a email or phone call, I don't recall, but they said, hey, we've seen your success and we want to nominate you for the Hall of Fame. And I had to fill out all these forms and send them in. And sure enough, they said, hey, you've been nominated. And then I was out in Vegas in October 2018. And there was about 5,000 students a year. And there was only like 5 or 7 they pick every year. And I was one of those 7. And at that event, I met Tim Bratz before he started doing his coaching. And he's the one that planted in my head to buy an apartment building in that event.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know he was a Hall of Famer as well.
Yeah.
And then you're wearing a shirt.
Oh, yes.
What is the Teen Millionaire Challenge about?
Teen Millionaire Challenge started last week. Good friend of mine.
Last week?
Yeah, last week.
Okay.
So it's a good friend of mine, Tim Mai and Robert Allen. He's the author of One Minute Millionaire. He's written a lot of real estate books. They said, hey, look, we want to bring in some teens to buy apartment buildings, right? Let's see who can mentor them. And they thought about me, and I was super honored. I'm like, okay, great, I'll do it. Yeah. And so they all came to my office for 2 weeks. I trained them up. And now we're like cold calling, we're sending text messages, we're calling brokers, we're calling sellers. And we got 19 of them from all walks of life, from people, a couple of kids showed up with no laptops, right? To a couple of kids that their parents are worth tens and tens of millions of dollars, okay? So we put them in 3 different groups, and their job is now for the next 12 months. They're going to run their business just like you and I run our business, weekly calls, KPIs, are you hitting your numbers? They're going to have their internal meetings, and then we'll have a meeting all together. And they're going to take for the next year, they're going to go out and source deals, analyze them, and make offers. For the first 90 days, we're going to review all the offers. After 90 days, I don't even want to see them. They can just send them on their own. And they're going to get some properties under contract. And then I'll come in. If it's a big property I need help, I'll bring in another partner and we'll buy them. And they'll get a piece of the pie for bringing a deal. And if they want to raise capital, they can raise capital. We'll teach them how to raise capital, everything. At 16 years old, imagine that. But we're just saying, what were you doing at 16 or 17, right?
Video games. I was really good at NBA Jam.
NBA Jam. I was playing Tecmo Bowl. What else was I playing? I was playing Contra, Shinobi. I don't know. Anyways, there's some old video games. But, so I'm very excited because one of the youngest ones there is my daughter. She's 16. And I've really never pushed real estate on my kids. In a way, they have a little resentment to real estate because that's the business that took their dad away. Mm-hmm. Like my greatest sacrifice was my family's time. It wasn't even mine. It was their time. Right. I was building my business. And so I really never pushed it. And she decided to do it on her own. So for me, that was a big deal. And her team just made an offer yesterday for $9 million. I was so happy. Right? They didn't even ask me. They just made the offer. I'm like, hey, that's super cool.
That's awesome. All right. So let's pretend I decide, right?
Yep.
My team don't listen to this part. So let's just say I decide, you know what? Scrap everything. I'm starting all over. I want to get into multifamily.
Yeah.
So advice would you give me starting from scratch?
Starting from scratch, right? So you already fired everybody, let everybody go, or maybe put somebody else to take over your business, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't fire everybody. Somebody came in because you're doing such a good job that it's easy to put somebody in to run the whole business. Yeah. For me, it wasn't going to work that way. So you already believe you can do it, right? Mm-hmm. And number 2, you got to hang out with people who are buying apartment buildings, right? If you're hanging out with flippers and wholesalers, well, come on, we've all heard this, right? Who are the 5 people you hang around with the most?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you're hanging out with flippers, wholesalers, you're going to be a flipper wholesaler, right? Mm-hmm. So go hang out with people that are buying apartment buildings or are buying warehouses, or if you want to be an influencer, go hang out with influencers, right? That's what you're going to be, mm-hmm. right? And then number 3 is take some action, right? Okay, right? Now that I'm networking, what do I need to do? Like, what's my reach? Oh, you know what? I can raise capital. I have a huge following. I'm going to buy apartment buildings. I'm going to raise money, right? Or I'm great at finding deals, right? Or I have a high net worth. I'm just going to sign deals, right? Or my team's great at operations. I'm going to operate the building. Yeah. So there's a lot of different things you can do. Now, you don't have to do all of them.
You have this thing like with houses, like you pull a list.
Skip trades. Exact same thing.
What list are you pulling?
You can go on like on ListSource, so you can go anywhere, right? And you can get just apartments, right? And in apartments, usually you have a 5, 7, 10-year loans. So you might have a 30-year AM, but a 5-year balloon, right? So it'll tell you when the loan is due. So you want to like call the ones that the loan is due like in 12 months because they either got to refinance or they got to sell, mm-hmm. right? Those are like the good ones. And then you say like, hey, which are the older ones, right? Like 60s, 70s, 80s, probably most likely to sell because they're older. And if you can find the age of the owners or the partners, because now sometimes it's the LLC, you got to find the LLC members. Mm-hmm. And if they're a lot older, then most likely they're also willing to sell. Just like you stack your list for houses, mm-hmm. you can stack your list for apartments. Yeah. And then you can go from like 20 units, 50 units, 100 units. The sweet spot really is 20 to 80 for like most investors, just because the big guys aren't going after those, right? They're all under $10 million, $5 million under or below. We start going over the like $10 million, $15 million, $20 million. You're fighting against like money from other countries, and they'll want more. They want less return. Yeah. So they're going to pay more than you.
They're willing to pay more. They're willing to overpay.
So just like anything, right? But it's not a big transition. It's just knowing exactly like the little details. What do I do here, 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 and here?
You're just tweaking your systems.
Yeah. So, and how do I analyze it now? It's a little different now, right?
So for me, we transitioned from a residential team, and then we built out like a wholesaling team.
Okay.
So it sounds like you just kind of took your wholesaling flipping team, just tweaked it a little bit, and it became an apartment.
That's right.
Acquisition team.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and you can wholesale apartments too. It's a lot harder than single family. Yeah. But you get some nice fees, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000.
Oh yeah,
fees.
No, I've heard these multiple
nice
6-figure assignment fees.
7 figures. I mean, super close 7 figures sometimes. So you can get.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I guess those will pay some bills.
Yeah, definitely pay some bills for sure.
All right, so let's see. Let's look at the questions here. Some creative stuff. So Cesar Rios on Facebook wants to know, how do you manage out of state flips? Because you're flipping nationwide. How did you?
Yeah, very badly. Very badly. So you got to make sure you partner with the right people, right? So a couple of markets, I didn't have the right partners there. So we just weren't aligned perfectly. So if I was to do it again, I would make sure whoever my partner there would have some skin in the game, right? And I would partner just because.
So not someone that's like an employee per se.
Yeah, I would not do that.
Yeah.
It's just too challenging. It's challenging enough to do it locally with employees.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Clippy Remo wants to know on Facebook, where did you find your closers at? He's having some challenges with his callers right now.
Yeah, it's super challenging, right? Trying to get some good people that do sales. So I like an easy button. Like for me, I like easy. If you give me an easy button, it's super cool. If I can outsource everything, if I can outsource arguing with my wife, I would outsource arguing with my wife, right? Super easy. At the end, the guy's got to say, "I'm sorry, honey, I love you. Order some flowers." That's it. Super easy. But anyways, so I used to try to hire my own. I'm just not a good hirer.
Yeah. Well, it's because you're a visionary and you love people.
Yeah. So I'll go through a third party like HR company that'll just put the ad out, headhunt for me, and you got to pay them. I mean, I got to pay them.
Is there someone that you use?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Who's that?
His name's Scott Hannes. Hopefully, Scott, if I was okay if I use your name.
Yeah.
It's Fortitude HR Solutions. Yeah.
Got it. I think he was. I think I met him through Legacy. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then for me personally, if I could outsource anything, it's working out. But
that would be awesome. We got a vending machine where you lay there and it works you out.
They have those things where it kind of twitches. I don't know how well that works.
Yeah.
All right. So Pete Hernandez wants to know, how quick do you set up an LLC before doing your first wholesale or flip? I'm excited. I'm excited to hear your answer to this.
I mean, even when I used to get a property under contract, sometimes I get an LLC I didn't even own yet. But you can just go online, any state, and for like $100, $200, fill it out. Fill out the paperwork. They'll have videos how to do it. So that's right there. Just fill it out. It's $200. Just get yourself a wholesaling LLC so you don't get in trouble. We do the same thing with apartments. Every apartment we buy it with a different LLC.
So my team doesn't love me at the moment, right?
Okay.
So we're closing on a property in 2 days.
Okay.
In Oklahoma.
Okay.
And we create an LLC for actually each house.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Right.
Okay.
And so they're like, we can't have an LLC because we name each LLC after the house, right? And then the holding company's in Wyoming, whatever. Anyway, long story short, we contract a property that I want to keep. So I tell the team, hey, I want to keep this one. I was like, okay, great. So what's the LLC? It's like, I don't know. And we just say the address. It's like, okay, that's the LLC. So the wholesaling team is dealing with the holdings team, and they're going back and forth. And I'm sure they're just like mumbling under their breath, but.
Yeah. Hey, that's what we do. That's what we do, right? Like sometimes my staff's like, before you put any on social media, if you're going to have an event, you're going to do anything, please let us know. Because we get bombarded with questions. And the last one that I did was over Memorial Day weekend. Like, I didn't think about it. I'm like, May 28th, why not? Mm-hmm. Anyways, but yeah, I understand what you mean.
My first event, I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a Memorial Day weekend. And I was like, man, I had so many people that tell I would come.
But it's a weekend.
But it's Memorial Day weekend.
Right? But we don't think about those details
We
sometimes.
don't. So Eric Richner wants to know, are you funding or partnering on any apartments in other markets?
Yeah, so I have seven buildings in 7 different states.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll buy anywhere, and for sure, I'll partner with folks.
So if someone wanted to bring a deal to you, how would that work?
Yeah, just follow me, find me on you have my contact information here on the show notes, and you'll be able to find me on social media, email me, and I'll connect you with my director of acquisition. And we have like a cool form where you can put your information in, and you put in the deal, and it submits it, and it has like your timestamp, so it knows it's yours.
Yeah.
And actually, even on that form, we have an Excel calculator and a video showing you how to analyze the property, even before you send it to us, if you want to do it on your own.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Josh Alter on YouTube wants to know, how do you go about finding your A players for your multifamily business, specifically acquisition underwriter? Yeah.
So when I went to find my underwriter and my acquisition director, I had to make sure they had a little bit of knowledge, because it's just so hard, especially for me. I didn't really know much, right? I was just starting. So which is easier for them.
You're finding people with more experience than you.
Yes. So again, my friend Scott Hannes found me this young, sharp guy who was wanting to get a promotion, but COVID hit, and they said, hey, you're not going to get a promotion no more to be acquisition because we're not going to hire because of COVID. And somehow my buddy Scott got a hold of him and convinced him to come be part of our team. So that's how I found him. I like easy buttons, my friend. I love easy buttons.
Oh, no, that makes sense. And I'm a very big fan of that as well. Josh H wants to know, what markets are you buying apartments in?
I'll buy an apartment pretty much any market. Like I'm actually buying a mobile home park in New York. I never thought I'd say that, but I got such a good deal.
New York.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like I never thought I'd see that. I say that, but it's a really good deal. It's a good purchase price, and the owner's carrying like 30%, so even better.
Yeah.
You can do some creative stuff too with commercial real estate. Super creative, and the tax benefits are insane. But really, it's got to be a good purchase price, right? Either good purchase price or really good market. We just got like our checklist. Good market, maybe 100,000 or more, and either if it's not cash flowing, it has to be at a discount. Like we have to be all in at 65%. Mm-hmm. If it's cash flowing, as long as we get somewhat of a discount, 80, 85% all in, we're fine. So, but yeah, I'll buy all over the country.
Got it. And then you were saying there were some creative options.
Yeah.
What are the creative options?
Like with the sellers?
Well, you're talking about like when you're doing commercial, you get to be more creative on the deal.
Oh yeah, you can get more creative even when you go raise capital, right? So say you need to raise $1 million and you're buying. I'll give you an example. I'm buying the mobile home park for $5.5 million. In the first year, I'll be able to deduct over $2 million in taxes. Mm-hmm. So if I have an investor who has a really high tax bill liability and his tax structure allows him to write off any kind of depreciation, he can lend me $1 million and I can give him $1 million of depreciation. I'm just saying the number. And that means he saves himself $300,000 to $400,000 in his taxes. He just made like 30, 40% on his money. Right. If I hold his money for 2 years, he's making like 20% on his money per year, just on that aspect, right? But he also has a little bit of ownership in the building, and I might give him some interest and some cash flow. Right. It's really good the way raise money. It's actually a lot easier to raise money for commercial properties, I think.
It is interesting.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. So.
All right. And then Seneffinist on YouTube wants to know, how much cash flow are you getting on all those units every month?
Sure. So we have 5 that are heavy value add. So all the cash flow goes back into those apartments. Once those apartments are stabilized and we refinance, it's going to be about $40,000 just on those 5, right? We have 2 right now that are pretty much stabilized, and we're getting somewhere around, I don't know, 15,000, something like that. Don't quote me on that. I wish George, my CEO, was here.
So net, he's the one that knows. After all the expenses are paid, including property management, servicing the lease, the maintenance, all that. Yeah,
easily you get about 15,000 per apartment building. It also depends how much you own of the complex, because when you buy an apartment building, you buy as a team. So if you own 5%, you might keep 5% of the cash flow. Mm-hmm. If you own 30%, you own 30% of the cash flow, right? Yeah. Or however you structure your deal. So it also depends on the apartment complex. But in general, yeah, he's gonna bring in around $12,000 to $15,000 per apartment building.
Got it. All right. Luis Garcia wants to know. Question for Javi: what's the one thing that Steve can improve on the channel? It's a very interesting question. You're gonna
on this one?
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, I was trying to look cooler than him. I was telling him before the show. I was trying to look, and he was wearing black. I'm wearing black. I said, it ain't gonna work for me, But I think maybe get some more commercial guys on here, right? I don't know. Get some more guys that.
I've been trying to get Tim forever. Tim's too dang busy.
Yeah, he's busy. Yeah, get some guys that buy and sell storage or warehouse.
We got Fernando Angelucci coming on.
Okay, Fernando. Yeah, my good friend Fernando. Yeah.
So we're working on it.
Yeah. Right? It'd be a little, that way everybody can, open their.
Fernando's one of those guys. They want to come out during COVID.
Oh, look at that. So yeah, give your audience a shiny object syndrome. No.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about that. We also have those challenges as well.
Yeah, I know. We all do, for sure.
Anthony Canella wants to know, if you could have dinner with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
If I could have dinner with anybody dead or alive, man, who would it be? Interesting. Alexander the Great.
Interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah. So what about Alexander the Great?
I don't know, all these stories, right? I mean, he conquered the known world and he was like, 28, 25, right? I just want to see his thought process, right? I guarantee he was a 120% visionary. Like, he was just like, let's go, let's figure it out, let's burn the ships, right? Like, we're taking this castle, this is how we're taking it. We either die or we ain't going home because we have no ships, right? That's a true visionary for me.
It is.
I would say Alexander the Great.
That's interesting.
And he is from Macedonia, by the way. He was not Greek. He was Macedonian.
Got it. And then Kai Nguyen wants to know, he's in DFW area. He's trying to learn his market. Any advice for someone trying to learn this business in the DFW area?
If it's apartments, well, it doesn't matter. Even if it's real estate in general, go find some local meetups. Dallas has an abundance of awesome people and awesome meetups. Just go on meetup.com, ask around, and you'll find some multifamily meetups, real estate meetups. There's an abundance in Dallas for sure.
Yeah. And then Luis' follow-up question is, how is commercial valued if it's not based on comps?
It's a business. So commercial property is actually a business. It's got real estate and it has a business. So the more income, the less expenses, the more it's worth. It's actually that simple.
Yeah. Yep. Gotcha. And Luis, we did have Chris Crone slated, but he had something come up. So
okay,
we are trying to reschedule it. But if you know Chris Crone, let him know that we're still waiting for him.
I'll send him a message.
All right, cool. Let's see. Coming back to Facebook. How do you spell Scott's last name? This is for Clippy Rima.
Hannis, Hanis.
There you go. So Vincent Blair wants to know, do you plan on moving into other types of assets, such as storage, industrial, hotels?
So I do have a mobile home park right now, and I've been super close finding some self-storage. When I go to a new asset, I need to get a stupid good deal, because if I totally screw it up, I still want to make money.
Yeah.
So I've been so close in so many, and pretty soon, I'll say in the next 90 days, I'll own some self-storage for sure.
Got it. And then, so Toby says it's a great show. What else you got?
Thank you, Toby.
So Eric Richner, follow-up question on Facebook. If someone brought you a deal to partner on, would you be willing to impart some of that apartment wizardry knowledge?
Yeah, so that's exactly what, that's what I recommend, right? Like somebody says, hey, look, how do I get started? If you can't sign a loan, if you can raise money, well, you can't just only raise money, but help raise capital for it or fund a deal, say it properly. Help with construction. If somebody brings a project, right? The biggest thing you can do, whoever you partner with, is ask them, hey, can I see how the sausage is made? Like, what can I do, right? Because that's what, honestly, that's gold. Like, I would bring you, like, if I wanted to do, hospitality, right? And you knew you were the expert, like, I bring you a deal, I wouldn't want anything. I just want to learn. I'd be like, Steve, let me learn everything, how you do this whole process.
And just sit in the room while you're working.
Yeah, let me serve you water. Let me massage your feet. I massage your feet, man. Let me do that. Let me learn. And knowing my personality, I don't want to do all the details. I just put a team together to help me do it, right? But that's just me. And everybody has their own way of doing things. But Steve, you're such a good guy. You'd be like, hey, you get some equity, you get some acquisition fee for bringing the project, right? And that's what most people would do.
All right.
They give you some money and some equity.
So you mentioned earlier raising capital, and you had to switch your mindset, switch avatars.
Yes.
So what was that pivot when you were switching to raise private money?
Yeah, just hanging out with different people, right? So people say, hey, how do I raise money? What are you hanging out? Who are you talking to?
Yeah.
I love my, my friends, everybody, but like, at some point, if I need to raise $5 million, like my friends don't have it, so you got to be able to get yourself out there, go to conferences, connect with people, associations, networking events, and just start building your network before you need anything, before you need money, right? You start building that network and tell them you have that third nipple, right? Tell them, hey, I have a third nipple, Anyways.
All right. Pity Laney wants to know, she has 17 years old that wants to invest in real estate. She's very driven. Is the team program still open? If so, how does she get involved?
Awesome. It's awesome to have a driven 17-year-old, first of all. And so this season 1 is closed, but we are going to open up a season 2. And we kind of put it together like in 30 days, like pretty quickly. So just as time is going on, we're going to put the website together and like some opt-in forms. People can follow along as we're going through this process. And when we open registration again, it'll definitely be open. But for this one, it's already closed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Do you have an anticipation when the next one's going to be open?
Oh, not yet. Hopefully we'll know in the next 30 days.
Gotcha. Oh, there you go. Okay. I already just asked the same question.
Yeah. And hopefully we're going to use some of our teams now to be kind of mentors as well, come back and help out. So it's going to be pretty cool.
That is awesome.
And we're documenting everything, by the way. So we got video. We're going to create a whole documentary on it. It's going to be pretty cool.
That is cool. Cesar, follow-up question. How do you wholesale an apartment? Do you contract at a high cap rate and sell at a lower cap rate?
It just depends, right? Where's the money to be made on the apartment building? The biggest thing about selling an apartment building is who's your buyer, to be honest with you. If you're like a brand new buyer, it's so hard because you're not proven. It kind of sucks because you're not proven unless you come in hard with some money or something, right? You got to make sure you vet your buyer. They've been able to close in the past. Maybe they own something close by. That's really more important than like the price. Right? After you know you have a good buyer, right? Then you got to see how that apartment is going to make them money.
Gotcha. So you want to make sure that they've either closed on something, or they're close by. Those are two of the most important things in finding the buyer.
Yeah. And how do you evaluate an apartment building? It's just, you can always use the 1% rule, right? If it's grossing $5,000, it's worth $500K, right? it's good if you pay $500K for it, then you should be okay. Just rule of thumb, like just big picture, right? Just a 10-second overview of the property.
But that wouldn't work, right? In Phoenix.
Oh yeah. I don't know. Would you get a $5,000 gross for $500K? Probably not in Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean,
you probably get what do you get here? Like
the last time I was looking, it was like low 4s.
Oh my gosh, 4
cap
caps.
rate.
Yeah, that's insane. So if we find this apartment building like 40 minutes from Kansas City, and it was 11 unit, grossing like $4,800. We got it under contract for $160K in a nice area. In a nice area.
That works all day.
Yeah, like holy smokes, that's a great deal. I'm like, I almost thought about buying it, but like, no, I'm trying to buy like 100 plus. Mm-hmm. So I sold it to a buddy of mine for like $300,000. I wholesaled it. Yeah. And he's gonna make a few $100,000 on it.
Yeah, I think that's something where even though I'm not in apartments, I probably would have said yes to that deal.
Yeah, it's like, man, I considered it. Trust me, Steve. I'm like, man, that's a good deal. I can buy it and make $500,000, but nah.
All right, so Yaquez wants to know, how do you find wholesale apartment deals?
The same way you find single family, right? Mm-hmm. You get your list, you can call them, you can email them, you can.
Well, I think he's talking about like, how do you find the people that are sourcing that would wholesale it?
Oh, that we're wholesaling it. Mm-hmm. Just join some Facebook groups that do multifamily, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I have a buyers list. If anybody on the show notes, you guys find me on social media, and I have a buyers list. We get about, I don't know, at least 2 a week under contract. So we make like the last numbers that I got, we underwrote 76 properties. We made like 35 offers in 1 week, right? And we got like 4 contracts. These are apartment buildings. These aren't houses. I'm talking apartment buildings, okay? Mm-hmm. Some people don't do that in houses a year.
Right.
Some people don't do this a year in apartments. So we got a pretty good flow going, and we get a pretty good deal flow.
Yeah. And then Eric Richards got a guy who's in Atlanta, wants to buy all the real estate in the nearby area, so definitely need this.
Oh, Atlanta. I just got a bad text this morning. We had like 400 units under contract, and the seller don't want to sell no more.
Oh, what happened?
Yeah. One of the kids don't want to sell.
Mm.
So I got to go figure out that fire after here. Let's see if we can convince them to somehow leave them in a deal or do something.
Luis Garcia wants to know, are there any VAs on your team?
Yes. I'll pretty much have everybody's virtual, except for my videographer. He's local. My director of acquisition is local, and my COO is local, like live in Raleigh. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, my COO has been in Mexico for the last 6 months, and he's not coming back. I said, George, are you coming back? He's like, I think I'm staying. So he's been visiting family, and he might not come back.
And Antonio Canella wants to know, besides Alexander, who's your biggest hero?
Who's my biggest hero?
Present company excluded.
Present company excluded. Okay, thank you, Tony, for making that a little bit harder for me. I would say my biggest hero. I don't know. That's a question that actually I never even thought about before. Man, my biggest hero. I have to really think about that one, Steve. I would. I'll tell you what. As far as my hero go, I would say my mom. Right? She was a single mom. My parents got divorced when I was little, and she just worked all her life. She passed away like 8 years ago. She was 55 years old, and my lifelong goal was to take care of her when she got old. So she's definitely my hero.
Yeah,
she's definitely my hero.
And we get that a lot from a lot of people. So I mean, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
So some of these questions don't make as much sense. What is your monthly overhead running your business?
Overhead is about $30K.
Okay. And that includes marketing and pulling lists and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
What CRM were you using?
Actually, I was using Podio. And Podio is like his 1989 Ford pickup truck. You know, it gets you there, man. Like, it's not sexy, hot, and you got to roll the window down, you know?
Uh-huh.
It's not sexy, but it'll get you there. And actually, I just switching out the last couple of weeks to, her, Stephanie.
Stephanie, yeah.
Yeah, Stephanie
Salesforce.
with Salesforce, yeah.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
we're doing all the transition right now just because I like pretty pictures and like numbers and bars and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm easily amused.
I am too. When we go next door, you're going to see our dashboard. We always have it up and running in the office for all the sales guys to see. So you'll see that.
Yeah, so Salesforce, to answer the question, Salesforce.
Yeah. What is your why?
Oh, my why. Oh, this is a great question. It's money, houses.
No, it's not money.
Oh, let me finish. It's money, it's houses, women, it's cars. So let me back up. I'm being honest. Am I the only honest one that said that before here? All right. So I say money because you got to have money to leave a good legacy, leave something for your family, right? Houses. I need a nice place to live, nice place for my family to live, right? Women, well, I got my wife and my daughter. Right? I got 2 women in my life. And cars, I need to have a safe car for them to drive in, right? I don't want to be broken down side of the road or have an accident and not have not have a good car. So money, houses, women, and cars. That's my why.
The only reason why I don't say money is because money does not get you out of bed.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Right. And money is good initially. And obviously you put it in a different context. But for a lot of people, we get into this business for more money. And you get into it, and once you get a certain amount of money, it's like, money. Yeah. If that was your motivation, you would stop.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and so my wife asks me all the time. Well, she knows this. She's like, "You're probably a little bit selfish." I go, "Yeah, I'm a little bit selfish." Like, yeah, making money, buying an apartment building, it's amazing. But for me, my biggest what I like to challenge. Like, I see this and like, oh, I bought this apartment building. Oh, that's great. And then I forget about it, and now I'm off to work the next day. Mm-hmm. Right? It's just another day at work.
Right.
It's just a challenge, right?
It's the adventure. It's the journey. The adventure for sure. It's not about collecting.
And if you happen to make money and all this stuff in the back end, that's even better, right? It's just a bonus.
Exactly. So then what is your biggest struggle right now?
My biggest struggle is getting myself out of the business. My COO is doing asset management, so he's not really doing COO work. So I'm the COO, so that's dangerous. Like I was telling my marketing team, this is all jacked up. What's going on? And my assistant texts me privately. It's all messed up because you're in charge. I'm like, oh, shoot. I'm like, dang, that hit me. Like, it hit me. Like, it's like, yeah, she was right. It's all jacked up because I was in charge. I didn't give clear instructions. I just spill it out, right? Hey, get this done. And nobody really knew what to do. Anyway, so my greatest challenge right now is finding somebody to replace my COO as the asset manager. You gotta have like A plus person there, and then he'll move over and manage pretty much my whole company. That's my biggest struggle right now.
Yeah. And that thing about screwing it up, I mean, definitely, I'm in that boat too.
Awesome.
How many hours are you working in your business on average?
She probably ask my wife that. Yeah, she probably ask my wife.
Should be more honest.
She'd probably be more often. She'd probably say 60. I would say 50, 40 to 50 hours. Yeah, I enjoy it. So, and I'm still in building mode, and I build one side of one arm of the business, right? And I put somebody who runs it perfect, and then I'm out there building another side, right? Mm-hmm. Like I first build my assets, right? I went to buy a whole bunch of stuff. And now I'm really working on my marketing side, right? Like I know I got my marketing team, I'm doing all that. So now I'm in charge of that until that rolls on its own. And then we see what else I do after that, so.
Well, I'm only smiling right now because you were, when I walked in, you were staring at our accountability chart. Yes. And you're looking, it's like, okay, like these are all the different businesses Steve has.
Yeah.
So, again, mutual struggles.
Yeah, exactly.
So then how do you stay motivated when you face adversity?
Yeah, so I have a weird thing about motivation. Like, I think motivation is overrated. I think you should have a purpose, right? Because sometimes I don't feel motivated to go to work. Like, man, I'm just tired, but I have a purpose. I want to accomplish something. So for me, purpose will trump motivation all the time. So just make sure that purpose is still, it's still meaningful for you, right? Like, okay, everything that I'm sacrificing to get there, right? Is that worth it, right? So then that's kind of my motivation, right? Is my
crystal
purpose.
Clear.
Yep.
And then what is your superpower?
My superpower, I would say, is finding off-market properties. I would say that's my superpower. And I like connecting. I like networking. So
I can totally see the networking.
I love networking too.
Yeah.
My staff would say networking, and then I would go to finding off-market properties.
Well, I'm not questioning that.
Oh, no, but just thinking about it.
It's really easy to picture you working in a room.
I like finding a good deal. I love it. I love it. I just don't want to do anything. I want to find it. You negotiate it. You close it. You stabilize it. Like you do everything. I just want to find a deal.
This is kind of, I remember a while ago, right? Like when I was smaller, it was just me and my wife. We were doing the flips. And she would talk about what's going on with this, how much are we making? And I was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And she's like, how can you not care? It's like, the poker example is getting the seller to sign the contract. That's like me shoving the chips in the middle. Yeah. Right? Like that's the exciting part. After that, like everything else is whatever happens.
Yeah. And then I see the money in the bank, it's in the bank, right?
Yeah. So,
but I definitely like networking. I like this. Like I'm really enjoying this.
Yeah.
Coming out here to Phoenix and meeting with you. It's awesome.
Awesome. What is the greatest lesson you have learned?
The greatest lesson I've learned is just don't quit, right? The harder you work, the luckier you get. So, just don't quit, right? I mean, it's the biggest thing. Just the price is too high to quit. I always think about that. If quitting ever crosses my mind, I always say the price is too high to quit.
Can you elaborate on what that means?
Yeah, I mean, the price that you'll pay for quitting, right? Like what you can accomplish, right? You can change not even your family's life, but other people's lives,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like my staff, right? My staff is going to be changed like forever, right?
Right.
And the people that your partners you bring on, you're going to change their lives forever, right? Maybe if you coach, right? People in the mastermind, their lives are going to be changed forever because you decided not to quit and you decided to keep going forward, and you ended up getting to a spot where you're just part of an authority, right? Like you've touched a lot of people, you've changed a lot of people's lives, right? So if say you would have quit at some point and you never had this, I would never be here.
Yeah.
Right. So the price is too great to quit.
Yeah, because everyone's paying the price.
Everybody's paying the price, right? And everybody has somewhere to get to. And once you get there, I mean, you can just change so many people's lives, right?
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. What is your favorite, best, or most interesting failure?
my most interesting failure?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, geez. Man, I got a whole bunch of those. Oh my gosh. It's, I don't know. I would probably say, man, it's failure. It's probably partnering up with the wrong people, right?
Okay.
Not bad people,
Mhm.
or well, actually, I shouldn't say wrong. Let me not do that because everybody I've ever partnered with is not a bad person who's been wrong. Just setting setting the expectations, right? Like setting the expectations. Like if you happen to partner with somebody, you don't know what to expect, right? Because it's a brand new venture. So be like, hey, Steve, we're partnering on making water bottles. Okay. Hey, look, in 90 days, let's sit down again and let's talk about this, right? Because we don't know what we don't know. So in 90 days, we sit down again and be like, okay, let's see what we're in charge of here and how we're doing everything. Because at that point, we'll know, like, man, you're doing a lot of work. I ain't doing nothing, right? So that's probably my biggest mistake is not setting the expectations and kind of like a follow-up meeting, like every 30 days, 90 days to revisit those expectations and to ask you, Steve, what do you see me as a partner doing? And then you tell me, and then I tell you what I see myself doing. And then I do the opposite. Let me tell you what I see you doing as a partner, and then you tell me what you think you should be doing. And then that's how you come into an agreement, and maybe you move forward for 90 more days, or you call it quits, right? It's just good communication.
That's great. I haven't heard that before, but man, I can see how that would be incredibly powerful in any kind of partnership.
Yep.
Sergio Trujillo wants to know, with the experience you've got right now, if you had to start over and you had $1,000 in your pocket, what would you do?
I try to get on Steve Tran's podcast. $1,000 fly. I was just telling him it cost me $1,000 to fly here, right? Like I don't care, I would have paid it. No. So, anyways, if you couldn't do that, that'd be ideal. I would actually give my $1,000 and give myself a list, right? Pull myself a list, my local area, and I would just start calling, right? Start calling. You know, for $1,000 you can get a big list, and I would just call with my cell phone and try to get a deal. That's what I would do.
And then Son of Finesse wants to know, what car do you drive?
What car do I drive?
It's not a Ford 2009, or was it 1990? What was that truck you said earlier?
Oh, the 89 Ford pickup truck?
Yeah.
So true story. I'll tell you a true story. I'm a member of this car club. They have exotic cars. And when I went to join, like the interview, I was driving a Classic, which was my 19-year-old's like 2006 Chevy Cobalt. Yeah, I just crashed the back of the trunk. You turn it to the right and it made a clank, 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 clank sound. And I forgot where my car was. I think my wife was out of town and one of the cars was in the shop. I don't remember. So I took his car for this interview. As I'm pulling in, I make a right to the parking lot. There's a man on a phone outside, and you can hear the car just clacking, clank, 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 clank. And I go to the back so nobody sees me, right? I'm getting out of this piece of crap car. And sorry, anybody has a 2006 Chevy Cobalt. Anyways, so I'm walking in, and the gentleman opens the door, lets me in, and I asked the guy in the reception, I said, hey, I'm here to see the owner. I'm here to interview to be a member of the car club. So, okay, he'll be with you. Sit down. I sit down. Sure enough, the guy comes in, and I shake his hand. It was the guy who opened the door for me. He was outside. So anyways, I have a Chevy Cobalt. Well, I had a Chevy Cobalt, but we have a nice Mercedes. We have an Aston Martin. We have some nice cars. But yeah.
And I think I got a friend who's in a car club.
Yeah.
So he's asking me to join. So I've been meaning to.
Yeah, it's cool
to go check out one of those car clubs.
Yeah, the one that I'm a part of, the owner of Ubisoft is a member of. Fortnite for you guys out there. Yeah, super cool.
It's amazing. So, what do you think about a message you want to leave the listeners with while I make a couple of quick announcements?
Sure.
Guys, if you got value today, please like, subscribe, share, comment. It helps us because it helps the algorithm get us to more people.
Yeah.
We have our 2-day workshop coming up on August 13th and 14th. If your business is not where you want it to be, check it out. Just go to disruptors.com/workshop. We got Brent Bowers coming out next week, and he's going to talk about how to, they're just killing it with land. So if you're interested in land, check out next week's episode with Brent Bowers. Last thoughts you want to leave the listeners with?
Wherever you are in your real estate career, if you're starting out or even if you're already flipping and you want to do something else, like say you want to get into commercial apartments or whatever it is, you just got to do 3 things like I mentioned earlier, right? Number 1, you got to believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't see yourself there, you're never going to get there. Number 2, go network, right? Go network, right? 3 kinds of people out there. The ones you got to get rid of right away is all your loser friends, people who are toxic, just get rid of them. The second kind is the one you want to spend less time with. They usually have your same last name, okay? And then you have people you want to hang out with the most, right? People who have the same drive as you, same goals and same visions, right? So go network, right? And number 3, take some action. Honestly, if whatever you want to do in life, if it's real estate, if it's whatever it is, you can just find those 3 things and that'll get you in the right direction. I know everybody has questions like, how do you analyze them? How do you get money? Like all that, you know what? It comes with it. Mm-hmm. But without those 3, you're never going to get there.
Yeah, so you got to fix your belief system.
Exactly.
Fix your network.
Yep.
And then go do it.
And then everything else, it'll come along as you get a project and you start learning the process.
Yeah,
those are the details.
Great. That's great. And if someone wanted to get a hold of you, and we're going to post the link here, but I see here.
Yeah, javierhinojo.com. The website's on there. And also a funny story. So you guys will see I don't know what picture I have up there. Maybe they changed it already. But when I did my picture, I didn't have a shirt. So I was using my pajama shirt. But the website's fairly new. So be patient with us. It'll be updated soon. But yeah, javierhinojo.com or on Facebook, Javier Hinojo, or Instagram, javierhinojo.junior, because I am a junior. You guys can follow me there. And, I got a whole bunch of content for you guys. Just like Steve says on the YouTube channel, a lot of stuff you can just learn from here. You can do it on your own. So
cool. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. It was fun.
Awesome. So much. Thank you.
Thank you guys for watching.